Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
We're back, streaming from our own private hermetic universe. It is I, Jason Lube, well known to all.
And I am Temple, his wife.
My beautiful wife Temple is joining us. And this is mostly going to be her stream, actually. We're going to talk about epistemology.
I feel very much like we're kind of like the magical form of Brett and Heather Weinstein.
Oh, God.
You might not like them.
No, please, no.
I like them. I like them. I don't care. I don't care if they're unpopular. I like them. They're very smart people, and their podcast is worth listening to. So, yes.
What is epistemology, and what are you going to be talking about, and why should people care?
So, I think this stream has long been coming. This is a very important.
You tell 'em.
Yeah, this is a very important topic, actually, given all of the tension of society right now with social media and just a shit ton of information everywhere all the time. It's kind of like we're drowning in info, and actually, this started with. I'm trying to get used to looking at the camera, guys. It's awkward for me, okay?
You don't have to. Just look at that. I actually don't look at the camera.
There's a whole setup that you guys aren't seeing.
Yeah,
so,
the camera's above our monitors, so that's how it goes. Don't worry about it too much.
Oh, hello from Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana too. I'm from New Orleans.
Yes, lovely New Orleans. So yes, how do you tell truth from lies? How do you know when you actually know something and you can back it up and you're justified in knowing it versus you're just spouting off at the mouth like basically everyone these days?
There's a lot of myths when it comes to truth. Like, there's a lot of people who are very lazy thinkers there. I'm going to say it. You're lazy. They want you to believe that you cannot discern anything ever for whatever reason. And we're going to debunk that.
Yeah.
So, it's actually very important that we have this episode, like I was saying, because part of what we do and part of our intention with Magic Me is not just to share spiritual practices and techniques with you guys, but it's also to, like, help you not fall for snake oil and charlatans and propaganda. Although, like, I guess, like, we try not to be political, but
that's
whatever.
not true at all. What are you talking about? That is not true.
We don't want you
at
to
all.
believe what we believe. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, KS Moon had posted a question on a video a while ago, and then she posted it again on the Discord. And the question was basically, what are your sources? How do you discern with all the information that is out there? How do you know what is quote-unquote valid information versus invalid? And I was so happy that she asked that question because I wish that more people would ask that question. It's very tedious, but you can do it. You can absolutely ascertain something approximating the truth. And that's what this is about. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this is describing like how I engage with information and data and how Jason does too. So we're just describing how we do it, but we are not prescribing how you should do it.
Right. It's like we're trying to give you tools here. My mission statement has always been, including all the way back to the Ultra Culture blog, which I know some of you have probably followed me since. I see Keith on the chat, I think, followed me during the Ultra Culture days. My mission statement has always essentially been to give people tools to free themselves. Not to free people, but to give people tools to free themselves on every level. And that's why we teach magic. That's why we teach financial techniques. That's why we teach information gathering techniques like this. Because, they used to teach critical thinking in schools. They do not anymore. Now they just teach Common Core. They teach to tests.
They title a class critical blah blah blah, and then the students become very confused because now they think that they are critical.
Right. And it's like the purpose of education is not indoctrination. true education. It never was, by definition. The purpose of education is to show you is to give you the tools to educate yourself, to find information on your own, and to come to conclusions on your own. And that's what all education, all the way through, a college graduate, all of that is basically meant to do. But Charlie the dog.
Charles.
I'm going to turn it over to you. So anyways, that's what we're doing today.
He's going to...
Charlie, my God. Charlie, what?
Yeah, well, also when it comes to education, I think modern education, there's some history that points to that there were, big, typhoons of the time, like the early 1900s, that wanted to make really efficient tycoons, not typhoons. Sorry. But they're kind of like typhoons. Anyways, they wanted to make factory workers. They didn't want to make thinkers. And, we're not here to tell you what to think, but I will share with you how we think. A lot of people tend to rely on heuristics. They tend to rely...
Define what heuristics are.
So a heuristic... Oh my God, I'm going to be bad at describing this, but it's kind of like...
It's like a rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's like a shortcut, basically. Like, some people will think of, like, the white man and think bad, but that's kind of lazy if you think about it. So, yes, I'm going to bring it there. Yes. So,
my wife, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm worse than he is. Far worse.
Well, there is a confusion with now, critical theory is taught, but critical theory, let's just say by definition, is not the same as critical thinking.
No, not at all.
They're two totally different things.
No, not at all.
Critical thinking has more to do with formal logic, with
There's a methodology to it. There's a methodology to it. So, yeah, I guess that was enough of an intro. We'll kind of dive into it now. I wrote notes, lots of notes. So, here we go.
Well, before we start, of course, the Black Friday deal is now live for YouTube subscribers. So if you're a paid YouTube subscriber of any tier, check out in the description of this video. You can find out more. And it is, the deal is live. It's going to go live on Friday for everyone. But if you're a YouTube subscriber, you get it now, and we've almost sold out half of the highest package. Masonic Traveler says, where do I sign up for this Black Friday discount? Check out the link in the description. Basically, go to friday.magic.me, become a member of the YouTube if you're not a paid member, and then there is a post in the post section that is members only that has all the secret to buy links. Right, so I've linked the video that explains that process in my description. So go check that out. Like I said, it's only been up for 7 hours, and we've already sold out half of the highest package. So, yep, go get them, Tiger. All right, I'll turn it over to you.
I want to make a small comment. Also, join the Discord. That's where you can learn a lot about logic and thinking as well. We have a really cool philosophy channel, which, by the way...
I'll be the one to put the invite in now.
Which, by the way, I was really excited to see that they were talking basically about epistemology. The very last comments that you'll see is by Jinx Cat, and they are talking about basically what we're talking about today, but they didn't know we were going to talk about it. So amazing. You'll also find in the books section that I have posted Your Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is a book called The Power of Logic, and Thank You for Arguing, which is a book about rhetoric. So,
yes.
Now I'm going to get to my notes, guys. I will try to not overwhelm you. I want to start by saying that I am just an autodidact. I am not a professor. I am not a professional about this. But I have been studying philosophy since I was 21. You can go online and find a shit ton of courses for free about philosophy. And one of my favorite branches of philosophy is epistemology. So in massage therapy school, we hyper-focused on medical terminology, so I became really hung up on prefixes and suffixes to understand what a word means. So we're going to start with that. So what is epistemology? Epistemology stems from the word episteme, which means knowledge, and logos or ology, which means reason or the study of. So this is the study of knowledge. So first thing being debunked. If anyone tells you you can't know things, there's a whole school of philosophy about acquiring and understanding knowledge. So debunked. You can actually know things. This is really exciting news. However,
Meaning that, like, in a postmodern college degree, they just demoralize you by telling you there's no truth and everything's up for grabs and it's just what you feel, man. And that's not the case.
yeah,
That serves consumerism quite a bit, but not much else.
there's also there's a lot of, it just feels like a way to, whenever you're engaging with someone and they're saying like, you can't possibly know the truth, man. It's like, okay,
Chaos
like
magicians.
it sounds like you're just trying to shut down conversation.
magicians.
It sounds like you're just trying to shut down conversation and like do like a power flex move, like I know so much that I don't know. And like, yeah, that's, I think, actually really good. Socrates understood that he knew very little, and I believe that when we come to the table, we should acknowledge our limitations. We should be able to say, I mean, if there's a pie chart of knowledge, I only know like a sliver of that knowledge. There's just way too much information. However, there is a whole school of the study of knowledge. So we can kind of pick and find like parts to like assimilate like a picture of some sort. And an analogy that I used on the like the chat last night was, I like to imagine truth as like a ball of light in the center of a room. And of course, like, he's going to have his perspective of it, I'm going to have mine. And they're not going to be exactly the same, but we can kind of talk about it and be like, hey, do you see that light? What does it look like from your angle? Well, from my angle, blah, 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 blah. So
It's like the blind man and the elephant metaphor. Thank you, Keith.
So, episteme, knowledge, or episteme, sorry. Episteme, knowledge, ology, the study of. In philosophy, how one justifies, this is defined as how one justifies a belief and how we distinguish truth from illusion. Philosophers often define knowledge as a justified true belief, a JTB. So, in order to know a thing, there are standards that we have.
Standards.
We have standards!
That's a dirty word these days.
We do have standards. And we'll break it up. We'll break it into pieces. So a belief is something that you must believe. You believe a thing. Truth, it must actually be true. And then justification. You must have evidence or reason to believe said thing. Okay? So justify true belief. Here are some examples. We believe that water boils at 212 degrees or 100 degrees
Fahrenheit.
Well, Fahrenheit, and then 100 degrees Celsius.
For the Euros.
Under certain atmospheric standards, we can see that this is true. And to be, like, if you ever go to your kitchen and boil water and you measure the temperature, you're going to find out that it, in fact, starts boiling at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is an example of a justified true belief. Another one could be on Earth, there is gravity, and if I take this pen, it will inevitably always fall. So I believe in gravity. I believe that when I drop the pen, it falls, and I'm justified in believing it because it happens every time. And then there's a side note to this, because sometimes you can have a justified true belief, but it's not like you actually knew it. This is called, I think, the Gettier problem. Gettier. If I get the word wrong, deal with it. Like, who cares? Like, if you're getting upset over the way somebody announces a word, you literally have issues.
Okay.
So, the Gettier problem is as follows. I look at a clock. The clock says it's 3 o'clock. I say, hey, it's 3 o'clock. And it turns out I'm correct. It's 3 o'clock. But the clock doesn't have any batteries in it. So it's not working. So just by coincidence, I just so happen to be correct. Another example could be, imagine that you're in like this dark room that's closed off from the world, and you guess, like, I think it's rain. I believe it's raining right now, and it just so happens to be raining. You have actually no reason to believe that, but you just so happened to be correct at that time. So that's a little...
Even CNN is right every once in a while, but only by accident.
Yeah, so sometimes people can be right, but it's not like they actually did the work to make it right.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
It's true. So I just wanted to throw that out there because there are, like, exceptions to this general rule of justified true belief. And I wanted to talk about a couple of other things too, such as the different types of knowledge that we have, theories of truth, and modes of knowing. So when we are talking about a thing, right, and knowledge of a thing, there is the concept of analytical knowing and continental knowing. All right, so continental knowing.
Is that like continental breakfast?
It could be.
Silence.
So continental knowledge has to do with how a thing exists within a certain system. So a very easy example is like a tree. So when we look at a tree, what does a tree do in relation to its environment? It gives shade, it provides oxygen, it's a house for little birds, all kinds of things that a tree can do within its environment. So we know it in that way, the bigger context. But then we have the analytical form of knowing, which is, let's chop the tree up and figure out all the little parts that make up a tree, like the roots and like photosynthesis and things like that. One would argue that the continental view of the tree is more cohesive and comprehensive to a bigger picture of knowing what a tree actually is. Whereas when you start to get analytic, you just start slicing and slicing and slicing until eventually, like, you're talking about cells that is a part of the tree, but you kind of lose, like, the forest through the trees or some shit like that. So, I feel like that's important when we're talking about different forms of knowing. And then there's also different theories of truth. So theories of truth are theories of truth. We have 3 of them that we know about, probably more. But for the sake of this episode, we're going to do 3. There's correspondence. So does this thing match reality? So if I say Jason has water in this...
Apparently not. It's disappearing in the green screen.
Oh, no. Trust that there's water here.
Plot twist.
So imagine you have a jar with water in it, right? So correspondence is, I make a truth claim. There is water in this jar. Okay, well, from what we can witness, there's absolutely water in the jar.
Or is there?
So that we'll get to that too, the brain in the vat issue, which is not really an issue unless you make it one.
There's no water anymore. Look, there's no water in the jar. That's really odd.
This all could just be a hologram after all. The next is coherence. Does this make sense within a system that I already believe? So a lot of people will obtain knowledge just based off of, like, let's just say the material worldview. Does it make sense that this jar is actually here and that there is actually water? Well, if you believe in the material worldview, I mean, it seems to cohere to that. And then lastly, there's pragmatic knowledge. So, like, I don't know, like 1 + 1 = 2. Like the building of this bridge, it seems to work. So whatever the architecture is, that knowledge works. Like it works. So pragmatism has to do with what is practical and what works.
So let me see if I understand this. Just maybe to help. I want to fully understand this. So the modes of knowledge, 4 modes of knowledge.
We have 3.
3. Okay, we're not.
Well, we're not at modes of knowledge. We're doing theories of truth, and then we're going into modes of knowing.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm skipping ahead. Okay. So correspondence, does this match reality? Coherence, does this make sense within the system I already believe? And pragmatic, does this belief work?
Is it practical?
Yes, which is, so Very good. Very good. Correspondence would be like science. Coherence would be like ceremonial magic, and pragmatic would be like chaos magic.
Yeah, I guess so. And so these are just theories of truth. I'm sure if you use your chat GPT, you can find more theories of truth if you're curious about that. And then there's modes of knowing. So this is super important to Chaos Moon's question. I promise it's all leading to what are your sources and how do you know that you know a thing. Because this one question, what is your episteme, what is your epistemology, gets to the root of all of the tension that we're feeling in the room. There are people that are repeating things like memes, and they're asserting it as if they know it to be true.
Often violently.
Or like we were saying before, like people that take a critical whatever class, and now suddenly they think they understand what critical thinking looks like. Critical thinking is very like methodological. It is very tedious, and it's not necessarily easy. But the good news is you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. There are people who have been working on this for a long time. So we have things that we can go off of. So, modes of knowing. How do you know that you know a thing? What tools do you have available in order to know that you know? Well, number one, very easy answer. We can empirically test to see if we know a thing via our experience, aka science, right? So knowledge through the senses, observation, and or experiment or repetition. So how do I know that fire burns? Well, if I put my hand in it, unless like you're like some type of ascended Buddhist monk to which you aren't even from this realm, different rules apply to those guys. But for the most part, if you put your hand in a fire, it's going to burn unless you like put something on it to protect your hand. So we know empirically, for example, also that when we boil water at a certain temperature, or when we heat water up at a certain temperature, it'll boil. Gravity, like I said. So there are things that we know for a fact will occur almost every single time under similar circumstances.
Scientific, sorry, yeah, Keith's saying scientific method.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah,
we have the
yeah.
scientific method, guys.
Go figure.
So when people say we don't know things, it's very curious.
You can.
It's very curious.
What
you talking about?
We have whole gigantic branches of human knowledge that are based on knowing things for real. That, for instance, people's lives depend on every day. So the idea.
And I can hear like the skeptics, the Descartes people in the background being like, but what if we're in a hologram? What if we're blah blah blah, brain in a vat, matrix, whatever.
Like this.
Yeah. That is also accounted for. There is something called common sense reality, or naive realism, if you want to call it that. I think that the brain in the vat experiment is super interesting, but what can you actually achieve with that in this experience that you're having now? You might be a brain in the vat. Go ahead and fully believe that and see where that takes you. I think that you might not be happy with your results.
Yeah, thought experiments don't always map to reality.
Descartes was an evil man.
He tortured dogs.
Objectively, look at what he did. Just search it. I'm not going to repeat it, but search what that man did. He's the father of the modern mind. Okay, so empirically, we can know things. We can also use rationality and or reason or logic. We can also, we can use deduction. We can also use induction. If you went on to the book section on the Discord right now and you looked underneath my power of logic, you can see me and Ren using modus ponens to determine if you're hot or not. So modus ponens, this is very simple, right? Logic. All humans are mortal. Premise 1. Premise 2. Socrates is a human. So what can you deduce from what's the next thing I'm going to say? Therefore, Socrates is mortal. This, in and of itself, like when I say defense against the dark arts, I mean it. This is defense against the dark arts. People can use logic in a way that's manipulative So they can actually make an argument that's valid and sound, but the information is like actually wrong.
Well, rhetoric, that's rhetoric, right? More or less.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, rhetoric is also very interesting, and we'll lightly
The
talk
use
on
of
that.
logic for rhetorical purposes. People are mad pissed about Descartes in the comments.
Yeah, Descartes is awful. He's awful. And he has a heavy influence over the minds of billions of people. This is the other thing, too, which is why it's important that we talk about this. Your thoughts are not your own. I mean, like, unless you're meditating often and you're able to kind of see them go by and force yourself to think of something crazy, right? A lot of times, like heuristically or mimetically speaking, people tend to refer to other people for their thinking. So you might think, I think, therefore I am. And you might have this going on in the background of your mind, and you might not even know, like, where the fuck that comes from. And, oh God, I hope this is not you, but you might think that you thought that thought. But in reality, like, a lot of our thinking is influenced by philosophy and by other thinkers like Descartes, okay? But I guess, side note, he is one of the main fathers of rationalism as well. So, but he's just, okay. There are better guys. So that's the second one. So there's empiricism, and then there's rationality. Okay, and now there's testimonial and or authority. This is a credible source that you trust and believe, right? So an example would be, I believe that Pluto exists. Have I ever been to Pluto? No, I've never been to Pluto. I believe that Antarctica exists. Have I ever been to Antarctica? No, I have not. But I trust that the people that study this and have been there are not lying to me. That could be stupid on my part, but I don't see why.
It's all a penguin conspiracy, actually.
I don't know why they would lie to me about Pluto or Antarctica. I mean, perhaps there's something that I'm missing. It's possible. Like I said, that pie chart, I'm only a sliver in that pie chart, okay? So testimonial, we can gather information from credible sources that we trust. All right, next, pragmatic or practical. So again, knowledge via what works or proves true in lived experience or practice. So I put on my example list like architecture being sound via its stability. So whatever the mathematics is for that building to exist, we can trust pragmatically that it works, and we don't really have to think too hard about whether or not that's true because it's lasting, right? Okay. Now, here comes the more, like, woo forms of knowledge, but I believe in these forms of knowledge as valid for me personally.
As judging by the comments on the chat, other people do as well. Go Niners, that better not mean what I think it means. I will come down on you like the fist of an angry god.
It could mean the 49ers, too.
Let's hope.
What Niners are you referring to? Okay. So the knowledge, the other knowledge that we can refer to is intuitive knowing, right? So this is more like an inner knowing, insight. And an example would be when someone is lying straight to your face and you just fucking know it. And you just know it. You can't prove it, but you just fucking know it and you're right. Intuitive knowledge. Then there's revelatory knowledge or transcendent knowledge. So spiritual or mystical states. Basic example, if you've had this experience, you've had this experience, the experience of oneness. So that's another form of knowing. There's phenomenological knowledge. So I love phenomenology. I'm still learning Husserl, and I love him. I think that they're great. So this is direct experience via conscious or subjective awareness. So an example would be understanding what pain is because you have a body and you feel it directly, or tasting an orange and knowing what orange tastes like. It has something to do with direct experience and feeling and like this feedback loop. And then lastly, and by the way, there's a shit ton of other modes of knowing that you can look up. I just did, I think, like 10 or something like that to make it easy. Hermeneutical knowledge or interpretive knowledge. So this is knowing via understanding the interpretation of a text, symbols, and its meaning. So, for example, if you studied Christian hermeneutics, you might read the book of Genesis completely differently than someone who has not. So, yeah, just having reference, like basically it builds upon the last thing you're referring to things. So, those are just a few modes of knowing. And like I said, there's a lot more. But now we're going to get on to belief, narratives, facts/knowledge. By the way, we will do Q&A at the very end because I feel like I hear questions.
Maybe start that off with why that is so why each section is critical for people to know, particularly in today's media landscape.
I kind of assembled this list randomly and chaotically, but I tried my best. I'm trying to build on why you should have a functioning awareness of how you're extracting information and what you're doing with it, because ultimately, we're not just using just one mode of knowing. We're usually using like a constellation and putting it all into one giant picture that's comprehensive for us, because as humans, we are naturally limited. We are very naturally limited with just our perspective. So having a bunch of modes of knowing and having a working idea of theories of knowledge and truth can be very helpful when going through this landscape of endless information.
Endless lies, endless Choronzon, endless doth. That's what the internet is.
Yes, and you can swim through it gracefully, though, if you study these things. I'm not saying you have to be incredibly smart to do this. There are just, like I said, there are lectures online. There are people who can teach you these things. And I think it's very important that if you care about the quality of your mind, you do this for yourself. It's worth it. It's worth it. Is it challenging? Yeah, but like everything that's worth having is like challenging to some degree.
Can I jump in and point something out actually to that point? So there's a very common misunderstanding along the magical and mystic path that you should just like turn off your mind and go with the flow, man.
Just feel, man. Just don't think, feel.
One of the reasons that I like Crowley so much, not for his one of the reasons why I like, let's say, the thelemic or AA approach is because, no, you need to develop your mind to its utmost. It is only, it's like to just be dumb is not a mystic state. It's not a mystic state. It's like, it's understood in Thelema. It's like, it's kind of like people who just say, if you just do acid and turn off your ego, you're enlightened. It's like, no. The thing that you offer up to the great mystery, the great abyss, has to be heightened to its highest level. It's like nobody, an undeveloped mind also might have mystical experiences, but be completely unable to contextualize or interpret, let alone communicate them, and is quite likely to become unbalanced by misinterpreting what one is experiencing. And more practically speaking, even taken outside the mystical experience, if you don't know how you know, then somebody else is telling you what to think.
Yes. Okay. Yes. That's actually perfect. That's a perfect way to describe it, because that's basically why it's important. If you do not take control of your mind, I promise you there's
Someone
like literally
else will.
right behind you trying to take it. So what we're trying to do here at Magic Me is not just give you these spiritual techniques, but also to give you, somebody said something about critical thinking being mental hygiene. Yes, that. It's important that you know what it is, how you think, how you categorize, how you collect data, how you form it in your mind. Because if not, you are basically going to be at the mercy of other people who do it all the time, and they'll happily do it for you.
Or rather, but it's not even people who are doing critical thinking for you. It's just people that are marketing to you and using persuasion to tell you what to think, believe, and buy.
Or sophistry.
They're not doing critical thinking either. They just, particularly now, like, believe you me, I've worked in the media, I've worked in advertising. People aren't interested in truth. They're interested in persuasion. They're studying neurolinguistic programming. They're studying all of that stuff to get you to their point of view. So they're not doing critical thinking either. So it really is the blind fleecing the blind.
And we're not claiming to be fully illuminated. We're just sharing our tips on how we go about our mental hygiene. I love that, mental hygiene. Yes, I'm going to use that. So to to add to that, I want to talk about, well, how do you discern then? You have all of these different players coming at you with all this different information. I think it's very important that we understand the difference between a belief / opinion, a narrative, and also the facts / the truth or knowledge. Okay, so a belief is, I'm just going to remind you guys, it's a conviction or an acceptance of something to be true, but it can be wrong, right? I can believe that we are holograms and I could be wrong. I can't actually prove that to you, right? But I can believe it all I want. A narrative is a story or framework that organizes a belief, all right? And then knowledge, a belief that is true and justified by evidence or reason. So one of these things are not like the other. And a couple of examples that I want to give, because there are some really insidious examples that people often just overlook of really kind of distorted beliefs that fall into distortive narratives, and then like you're able to do the Holocaust, basically. The belief, I'm a good person.
That's one of the worst ones.
I'm good.
That's why, by the way,
I
go to great lengths to portray myself as a bad person online, just so you know I'm not fucking with you.
Good. I'm good. I'm compassionate. I have a heart. You don't have a heart.
Well, me specifically? No, not really.
So this type of mind virus is very, very insidious, right? Because
that's almost all spiritual people.
Because what happens?
Light workers.
What happens? Well, now you're going to have to fall into this narrative of I'm the good guy. And so basically anything I do is justified because I'm good.
Anything I do is justified and anything is right. Anything I think is right because me.
Yeah, because I'm good. I can't possibly be led astray because I am good.
Slim Jim says, I'm Tyler. I'm good.
We have a character that we've made in our role-playing games called Tyler Hates His Dad.
Yeah.
And he is a good guy.
This is a Werewolf the Apocalypse game where there's a character named Tyler Hates His Dad. I'm going to get some tea. Do you want anything?
Water would be great.
Okay, I'll be back.
So, the reason why that's a really insidious idea is because when you're acting in ways that are harmful, you're incapable of perceiving that because of your own confirmation bias. So, I'm good, which means even if I stab this person, well, they're bad. And it doesn't matter if, like, actually I'm missing out on a shit ton of information because I'm the good guy and I can't possibly be wrong. That's like one of my, like, I feel like that's one of the most ubiquitous forms of like mimetic complexes that are plaguing people right now is the I'm good character. You're a human being, right? So human beings, we are both and everything in between. Humans are a lot more nuanced than I'm good versus I'm bad. Sometimes a good person can do bad things and make mistakes and hurt people. Sometimes bad people can do good things and help people. So when you start to allow yourself to be a full human and you don't just place yourself in one category, what happens is you're able to catch your like own bullshit, like the lies that you tell yourself about yourself. And also it allows you to have compassion, not just for you, but for other people who may not be good in your eyes. By the way, who are you to judge is my question. So that's one example. Another example could be like any type of critical theory, like for example, like the white man is bad. Like I feel like that one, if you truly believe that that is reality and you believe that to be true, well, first off, you're losing out on the nuance that, you know, despite people's skin colors, they are neither good nor bad. They are a mixture of both. And what happens is that when you decide that somebody is a thing, even if they like do everything in their power to show you that they are not that thing, you have already decided that they are that thing. And it's not necessarily justified. It's actually very delusional to go about life labeling things that way. Sometimes, you know, there are harmful people, right? But a lot of times we don't really get to know that right off the bat. We have to experience them and witness them via their actions, whether or not they're healthy or like nice to be around. So that's just a couple of examples of the difference between a belief, a narrative, and knowledge. You know, politics social media, like everything. Like for example, here's another example with the Israel-Gaza war. Before that ever happened, I was anti-Zion. I was anti-Zion. Like, I was an anti-Zionist. I thought that it was awful. You would catch me on my stories talking about just how much against that I am. But after October 7th and doing a lot of research, I realized that I could not hold that position anymore, which is hilarious because if you only would have known me like just literally like a few years earlier, I would have been the exact opposite. But because I know that I am flawed in my perception, I'm able to allow more information to come in. And that helps me to kind of see a bigger picture. So, now I'm going to move on to media discernment, branching off of this. Media discernment or media hygiene is super important, and I think this is basically what K.S. Moon was wondering, like, who's your source? I think that taking primary sources is super important. So a primary source is a source that is directly from the thing. So
this is true in journalism and academia as well. Primary source is actual documentation.
You want to go
from the event, it's an actual record of something that happened, not somebody talking about it.
I think it's very important to have primary sources. You can have lots of primary sources that coalesce into a bigger picture. Secondary sources, the people who are talking about it, like, the thing is that once you get into the secondary sources, you're going to have to start asking questions. So who benefits from this? So you see like a article from whatever website. I think it's very important that regardless of who it's coming from, you ask, who benefits from this? Who's getting paid, if anybody's getting paid? What evidence is being presented, and how is it being presented? And even more importantly, what aren't they saying? Because this goes back into like narrative making or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's lots of people who have platforms who write and whatever. They're being paid by people to promote a certain narrative because whatever, right?
Yeah, one thing you have to look out for is as a practical way of looking at things. When people are trying to bamboozle you from the right, it's often by tapping into the amygdala and fear center. Sometimes it's justified. On the left, they are obsessed with framing. This whole idea of framing an argument, like basically spin. Spin doctors became a thing in the 90s, and then there was a linguistic consultant named George Lakoff that the Democrat Party paid millions and millions of dollars to teach them the most basic-ass NLP technique of all effing time, reframing. So you got to watch out not just for what people are saying, but the frame in which they're presenting it to you.
And also notice if they're leaving out demographics. That's all I'm saying. Notice that. Just notice that, because there are certain stories that are being promoted to paint people in a certain light that's just not true. It's anyways. So what is being presented, and even more so, what is missing? All right. The next question that you would want to ask, and guys, I am so serious. At least I do. I hope you do this too. I literally do ask these questions whenever I'm coming into contact with information. Because I don't like being fooled. I hate it. Do not bamboozle me. And if you can, congratulations.
Jason, Exploration Arcanum, has a great point about primary sources. Kind of like the difference between someone saying Elon said something and then seeing a video of him actually saying it. Yeah, the video of Elon actually saying, that's a great example, Jason. That a video of Elon actually saying something is a primary source. Somebody relaying it to you or writing about it, that's not a primary source.
Yeah, especially like, for example, I ended up getting into like this heated debate with this idiot online who I know in real life, and that's why I entertained it. But like, she was talking shit about Charlie Kirk and of course misquoting him. And all that I was saying, and also like she was going hard for Hamas as well. All I was trying to tell her is like, context matters, and the way that we look at what is being stated within the greater context of what is being stated in matters. And she was like, context schmontext, like, who cares? That's kind of the problem, guys. That's kind of the problem. We don't care about context.
Not you.
You are all smart and brilliant. I'm talking about idiots.
Thank you for the super chat, dude guy.
All right, next question. This is super important. How does this information make me feel? Is it like trying to elicit a strong emotional response out of me? Because if it is, it may be propaganda.
Almost always. Almost always. But the problem is that you know, it's like I'm old enough to remember the good old days of the Bush-Gore debates when, you know, or God forbid, Dukakis Reagan or Dukakis Bush, where
Dukakis.
yeah, a name that you probably don't know if you're not a millennial or Gen X or actually Gen X. Anyways, the classic example of this, if you go back and you watch the George Bush Jr. Al Gore debates, where Gore is just like academically listing all these things, and everything he's saying is correct, but he's boring as fuck, and everything he's saying is just relating information. And then George Bush Jr., everyone's favorite president, comes in and just starts like going off about all this fear-based stuff, right? And it's like, yeah, it's actually a cognitive tool called amygdala hijack, right? The point being,
Bypasses reason.
just if you look at the side of my well-shaved head, up here you got your prefrontal cortex, which is where you do your reasoning, your logic, and that stuff's hard, right? Back here, you got back here you got your lizard brain or amygdala, which means your fight or flight impulse. And that is common to not just all mammals, but basically all vertebrates, I think, all higher vertebrates. So, yeah, that's a lot more powerful to tap into that. And that's why one of the reasons why our world is falling apart. And I remember specifically when this happened. I was running Ultraculture. In 2015, there was a study done about what emotions are most viral. And they discovered that extreme anger is the most viral emotion. Do you wonder why every goddamn thing you see now is just hits that button? So
Also, I think that, of course, this is true what I'm about to say, but I think it varies given the context, like if you're in sympathetic or parasympathetic response. But if your body is in like a fight or flight type of, if your body's in fight or flight, which is very easy to do, you just have to drive out on the street and now your body is in fight or flight. You know, your body, it's not like your brain. I mean, your brain is part of your body, but what I mean is that when you see a car coming at you, your body is like, hey, that's a big animal coming at me, fight or flight. So you're naturally a little bit more tense when you're in a car. People are naturally induced into fight or flight in the modern world very often. And when you are in fight or flight, the way that you process information is a lot more restricted. So you take information in, it shoots down to your amygdala, and then it shoots up to like your neocortex, cerebellum region, which is good for abstracting, right? But when you are in fight or flight and you're taking in that information, you cannot rationalize from that part of your brain. That part of your brain only cares about survival. So yeah, amygdala hijacking is very real, and it's very manipulative and evil. Moving on. The next question, is there independent verification? So going back to those primary sources, this is like a very basic example, but let's just say that there's a house fire, right? What sources can we go to corroborate this? Well, we have the person who owns the house. They're saying, hey, my house caught on fire. You have the firefighters who went out to the house and said, hey, this house caught on fire. You have the neighbors that are like, yeah, the house caught on fire. So that's a very basic example, but when you are traversing through all of this information to make something really complex very simple, that's kind of what it's looking like. How does it correspond across information? With that,
I want to address one comment real quick. Willie Todd says, does October 7th fall into this category? No, this is why. Basically, the media constantly hitting the fear response is crying wolf, right? If everything makes you angry, if everything's scary, then when actually horrible things happen, like October 7th, it just becomes another thing in the media cascade. And so that's a problem, because sometimes you have a fight or flight response for a reason. You know, you have an aggression response or a fear response for a reason. It's to keep you alive. So
I also want to add on to that because I see fear porn comments. I'm not
quit watching porn, by the way. What the fuck?
I'm not reading that. We're going to read the comments at the end of this, so I'm not actually reading what you're saying. I just keep seeing the word fear porn coming up. And something that I do think is important to realize is that not everything is fear porn. Sometimes some information is just distressing.
Yeah.
And I think the way that you can tell if you're being like propagandized about is like how it's being delivered versus the information itself being distressing. So like in Arkansas, some months ago, they found this like shack that was used to torture and assault these little kids. That is distressing. That is stressful, and that makes me scared, right? That there are people that live in the world that are like that. That is not propaganda. Propaganda would be something like, I don't know, like trying to say, like, it's like a bunch of like alt-right people doing that,
Right,
or something
or
like
shrieking
that.
about Trump doing like smiling like today for the 17 gajillionth article about that.
Trying to paint a picture or exaggerate a picture with things that actually you just can't conclude.
Well, I think that's a really critical point, right? Because it's like, one of the things that we look at in research is, there's like human trafficking networks, child exploitation networks, child pornography networks. Do you ever see that stuff covered on the news? No, but that stuff is legitimately awful and horrifying, yet everyone's caught up in, oh, Trump did this today, So it's like, it's not only is it crying wolf, but it often papers over the things people should actually be quite concerned about.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when it comes to, like, here's something that frustrates me. People that lie about being assaulted, then they make it worse for everybody because they're trying to paint a picture of whoever the fuck that they're going after. They're trying to add to this narrative that, whatever. I think that there is information that can be harmful that's misinformation or disinformation. There's a difference between the words disinformation and misinformation, by the way.
So misinformation this is really critical to understand, particularly in the spiritual world. Misinformation is bad information. It's like somebody told you something that's not true. Disinformation is a CIA term from the 60s. It means something that is intentionally constructed that is 80% true about, let's say, Pareto principle, like that is mostly true but a little bit false. So it's like they slip in, it's like a nice cup of coffee with a little bit of poison slipped in, and that's intentional. The 80% is true so that you let your guard down and trust it as true information, but then that extra 20% will fuck you sideways. So basically that's what disinformation is. There's a lot of that. That's a standard tactic.
So things to be aware of when you're going about this information and you're asking questions. Obviously confirmation bias. This is so important. Again, I'm a good person. I can't make any mistakes. You might. Also, you might have like certain prejudices that you have to address. When we are going through information, we are trying to hold ourselves accountable to a standard, which is, hey, I know that I have XYZ feelings about whatever. I have to be aware of that when I'm taking in this information because it really can like slant your view on it, and so you have to be aware of that. Anchoring bias. So like maybe there's somebody who has given me some news, like a source that I trust a lot, and I trust them so much that they could give me wrong information, and because I'm anchored to them, I hope that I'm using this correct because I could be wrong with that.
No, that's really common because everyone's got like their podcaster that they listen to and like their go-to people. So yeah, that's something really critical to be. You still have to critically evaluate their stuff. So that's a really important one these days.
Next, being aware again of mimetic complexes. Guys, we think in memes. We just do. It's a lot easier. Actually, your brain, it uses like a crazy amount of your energy each and every day. So when you're thinking, you are using more energy. So we use memes and heuristics to like save energy. It's just quicker, easier, whatever. Usually, like, that's just how we do it. For example, the stove is hot, don't touch it. Very easy stuff. We don't usually think, but why is it hot? And how do I know if it's hot? And what is hot? You know, we don't think like that. We can't. You can. And I think it's fun when you can. But what Wittgenstein would call that is mental masturbation. Anyways, we have to be aware that we do that as well. And then lastly, tribalism, my team versus the other guy. We're all on teams, okay? We are. If you have an identity of any sort, you've decided that you're a part of a team. And there's literally, you could even say, I'm not on a team. Well, that's a team too.
It's a pretty popular team. That's called Team American Apathy, or just Team First World Apathy. Yeah, that's a political position, by the way, that has long-term consequences.
I'm on team no team.
Yeah.
That's a team. So try as you may, you're going to... The thing is like, you are incarnated in a physical form, therefore you are in a box. Whether or not you like it. You could be in the I'm the kooky, weird, cool, whatever box or whatever. And
just like everyone else.
Yeah, just like everybody else. Like, I'm super unique. We are all super unique. So how to discern what's true in media. Don't rely on a single source. If you can, try to find multiple primary sources. Question, what is being claimed? Who benefits from it? How close is this claim to the original source? You definitely don't want something that's like, you know, it's like telephone, like all the way down. It's going to be so distorted by the time you get it. Don't seek comfort. If you care about the truth at all, which you should, be ready to be challenged and to have a lot of your deeply cherished beliefs debunked. I've said this before to Jason, but I keep going back to it, which is when we were like, you know, hunters and gatherers, or, you know, mammals out in the savannah, truth mattered a lot because truth discerned whether or not you got to live. So it was very important that whatever model you used for reality mapped onto the environment quite well. And I would argue that is still true today. But be ready, because a lot of your deeply held beliefs might not be true.
Which is good. I mean, don't you want to be free? The truth shall set
No,
you
I
free.
want the lie!
The truth
I
shall
want the
set you
Matrix!
free, but first it will be a little uncomfortable.
Some people are comfortable with their cognitive dissonance.
Most people.
How's your cognitive dissonance going, guys? It's uncomfortable, but...
Most people would rather die than question their beliefs. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think that's a choice. I don't understand it. It is uncomfortable.
I understand
it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. It is whenever you have something that you were building. It's kind of like the tower in tarot that just collapses. I built this really cool tower, and now it's destroyed.
I can tell you exactly. I can tell you exactly why people are like that. It's tribalism. People have this is something that independent thinkers really, really struggle with, because it doesn't make any damn sense to them. But this is truly how most people are. Most people, I mean, and all you need to do to see this is look at the political landscape right now. Most people believe what they believe simply to maintain membership of a tribe or a group. That's a critical survival response, because it's like you look at fish in the ocean. It's like if you're in a herd, or a herd of bison, or a school of fish, you're far less likely to be picked off by a predator. Whereas if you go out on your own and start thinking for yourself, now you're actually quite vulnerable. So, like an example, right? I have seen the Democrat Party go from basically sane and centrist in the 90s. I mean, the whole globalization thing kind of screwed us long term, but I've seen it go from basically sane and centrist. You know, the Democrat Party in the 90s is basically like, it has nothing to do with like now it's like so many more insane beliefs have been injected into that mimetic complex. But people adopt. Why do people adopt them? Is it because they're true? No, it's because that's what everyone else is doing. So in order to maintain tribal cohesion, they have to adopt the same beliefs. That's why people would literally rather die than change their beliefs, because it actually is quite that serious for them. They think that if they change their beliefs, they'll be exiled from their group. And being exiled from your group is actually one of the most traumatic things that can happen to your immune system, to your it's physiologically disastrous. And so people are they're terrified when their beliefs are challenged. What they're thinking is not, I should seek the truth. They're thinking, I'm going to be ripped out of this group and exiled. Example, cancel culture, right? So I think that's why people are like that, and that's important to understand. But you shouldn't be like that, because then you're just a slave to the group.
Well, also, like, I think that, like, in modern, like, if you live in today's time, which, assuming you're watching this, you are, you're in a very privileged position, because we don't have tribes anymore. You can actually get up and move and go somewhere else. And if you are a part of a group that would exile you over a difference of opinion, those people suck. They literally suck, and they don't care about you. They don't care about you as a person. And I would just say get new friends. Get people that would actually, like, not freak out over you telling the truth. Oh my God, I want to tell the story about the meeting that I went to and I got kicked out of.
You should. No, don't tell that story. Thank you, Dude Guy. Thank you,
Well,
Dude Guy.
I'll just say the outline. I went to a meeting that I was invited to speak at. I said my mind, and then people left the meeting.
Well, specifically, this was a group of extreme leftists who thought that nothing exists, gender doesn't exist, all this, and she basically gave a PowerPoint about the this.
Well,
this,
we might as well
nothing.
just tell the story. I feel like justifying myself. So basically,
All right.
all I said was, okay, I believe that the transcendent and that infinity is in fact real. I do believe that. I believe that we can go beyond what is. However, I see 0, I see 1. I see self, I see other. I experience myself as a female, I experience you as a male. Therefore, I'm experiencing something. Don't fucking gaslight me, guys.
Right.
Stop. Stop this shit. Like, a bunch of things. Listen, if you're so confident in your worldview, which, by the way, I conceded, transcendence is real, going beyond the binary is real, but also, I can see it. Therefore, it's there. Mm-hmm. Don't try to tell me that it's not. Anyways, that made people feel really uncomfortable. I said it in a much nicer way, too. I was like, literally, I see 0, I see 1. Like...
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
Shocking.
And then they decided to tell me about Bayesian theory, to which I looked up and researched, and I was like, I don't think they know what this means. This basically affirms what I was saying.
Yeah.
Anyways, so moving on, how to discern what's true. Do not seek comfort. By the way, that's why so many of you are triggered by Jason. Not you on the chat, not you. But
many people.
But why many people are not happy with Jason, because they have decided that he should conform to what makes them comfortable.
To be fair, I'm often deliberately I was Genesis Peorage's student. Okay, I'm a little deliberately confrontational. Sue me. So was Crowley. So was Gurdjieff. So was Drukpa, so was Padmasambhava, so was Rasputin, so was every goddamn spiritual teacher worth anything. None of them told people what they wanted to hear. So was Socrates. I'm not comparing myself to Socrates, but like...
He was killed!
They killed him.
He was exiled.
So was Jesus. So was Jesus. He didn't make people comfortable. He overthrew the money changers at the temple.
I would just say be suspicious of anyone who's like kissing your ass and trying to make you feel good all the time, because they're probably trying to manipulate you.
The role of a spiritual teacher is always to return people to the golden mean. It's to return people to the Tao. So... Yes. When the spiritual teacher manifests into a society which has veered off in one direction or other from the Tao, what do? They posit the opposite in order to correct it and bring it back to the middle. What does that appear like to people? Complete vicious attack on everything that they believe. Well, sorry, what you believe is not just wrong, it's so off kilter that you're about to go off an edge. A perfect example would be people's opinions about Islam, right? It's like, no, like that's actually...
That's the end of the video. I have comments on that.
Okay, all right, well, I'll let you do that. But like this I feel the need to define, right? It's like, because there is a formula to it. The spiritual teacher manifests in order to bring people back to the golden mean. If people are off the golden mean, or the middle pillar, whatever you want to call it, then you have to posit the counter to them, and that will always drive them insane because people they're just like, they want to do what they want to do. So
if someone triggers you, this is my personal opinion, how I go about being triggered. I don't make the external world responsible for my internal reality. Actually, KS Moon said something wonderful on here, and I'm actually of the same belief. Being triggered by Jason is an honor.
Thank you.
That's really good.
That.
That's a wonderful way to be. That means that you're actually fucking cool. That's what that means. Because if you hold other people hostage to your feelings, you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, you're literally psychotic. If you think that other people should be at all concerned about your internal world. I do not make anyone responsible for my internal state. Ever. Why? Because it's my internal state. It's my responsibility. Yeah. And what I like to share with people is if something is triggering you, that is an opportunity. That is an opportunity for expansion and for growth. Do not run away from that. Be so curious about that. Why?
It's a very good opportunity. Yeah.
Why am I being this way? And you know what? Like, sometimes you're valid. Like, if you see somebody kick a puppy, yeah, be triggered.
Yeah.
And then you can make it. Then they've inflicted harm on somebody else. Then you can make it. Then you can make it a problem,
Don't
right?
fuck with dogs.
Like somebody that's so innocent, like a puppy or like a child or an innocent baby. I think that's important because they can't actually defend themselves against a stronger person. But like, if somebody says something to me in a tone that I don't like, I need to really check with myself and be like, who the hell am I thinking that I can tone police this person? They might have autism for all I know. They could not be aware of how they're speaking. Yeah. More so, like, what is it that they're saying? Because that's actually that's what a conversation is. 90% of fights, by the way, are based off of tone, which is really interesting. Not the content, which is very interesting.
Listen to the words.
Yes. All right. How to discern what's true. Do not consume news emotionally. Don't do it. You're being manipulated. Avoid tribalism. This is very important, and this will actually lead to my statements on Islam at the end of this. Look for convergence over time, all right? For Islam, we have 1,400 years to look at.
Of data points, shall we say.
Not just the past 5 or whatever, however, whenever fucking October 7th happened. We don't have just that, guys. We got 1,400 years.
1,400 years of bloody
1,400 years of primary resources.
Yeah, which, by the way, is, what, 7 times like 6 or 7 times the amount of time that America's even existed. 5 to 7 times the amount of time that America's even existed. And so American empire.
Primary resources, guys. We got them. And we can look at them over time. We can look at them within the context of the entire thing. We can begin to formulate, it's kind of like a puzzle. So beware. Be aware of propaganda. Be aware of the propaganda's tricks. Again, highly emotional, very manipulative, narrative-based, usually polarizing, and it bypasses reason, right? Sometimes when you are engaging with distressful information, it is hard to not have an emotional reaction. My recommendation, this is what I do, is I pretend that I'm an alien from out of space, and I have no attachment to any of this. I'm not from here, not my monkey. But the circus is quite interesting. And learn to distinguish facts from narratives. That's super important, guys, because there's a story being built all the time. Look anywhere, there's a story being built. All right, and then my last notes, and then we'll go on to Q&A.
There's a lot of great questions in the chat.
I can't wait to see the questions.
And great comments, yeah.
So a lot of our thinking has, like I said, been influenced by previous thinkers. Thank goodness, right? We don't have to come up with all of these ideas ourselves. We can read people that made their whole lives about thinking. Thank goodness for those people. I aspire to be on that level. Primarily in the modern world, specifically like in the West, We are heavily influenced by Descartes, and we are also heavily influenced by Aristotle. And the difference is as follows. Descartes is more skeptical. He tends to doubt things, and he tends to be very mind-centered. I think, therefore I am. Whereas Aristotle is more about observing the environment and synthesizing that information and kind of like having a conversation with the environment. So it's more like I'm a part of a system. It's not I think, therefore I am, therefore I think type of vibe. We have also a lot of skeptical thinking as well. So going back to are we a brain in the vat? It's great to be skeptical. You should be. You don't want to be misled. You should be skeptical. If somebody's telling you, hey, I have this magic potion that can make you live forever, you should probably be skeptical of that. But in my opinion, because I'm 32, so I've been studying philosophy for a long time now. What I found in my journey is that there is a point with skepticism that can be detrimental to your well-being and to your health. And then it starts to become more like, well, do I want to be happy or do I want to just doubt everything that comes into my existence? Yeah. I think that practically speaking, sometimes it's good to take a more pragmatic stance on things.
Well, skepticism can also be unearned, right? I mean, if it becomes just a reflex, like you're just skeptical of everything, that's also not engaging with reality. It's not. It's just a reflex. If you actually, skepticism should mean, what skepticism should actually mean is you should go use these tools to find out for yourself. Not that you should just be James Randi and throw out every single thing that comes your way because that's your persona, right? And so when people make skepticism their persona, that's an armoring from life.
And it's the way to shut down conversation as well.
It cuts them off from living a happy life and experiencing existence, and is based in body rigidity and all that. So what skepticism actually means, so like let's take magic, right? I'm a skeptic. I was a skeptic about magic. I went and did the experiments. They didn't work exactly like I thought they would, but they worked in totally bizarre and weird ways that I never expected. And so I continued to use empiricism. And prior to that, I was very snarky, like, looking at Llewellyn books with airbrush stuff like that. Then I decided, you know what, I'm just kind of being a jackass about this because clearly this means a lot to a lot of people. I'll give it a shot. And lo and behold, here we are. So
I think I'm thinking of like the Catholic tradition. This is something that people just like, you must be an idiot, blah blah blah, pedo priest, blah, 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 blah. But it's like actually, if you dare look at it, it is a deeply intellectual and sophisticated tradition that's kind of hard. It's kind of hard if you look at the intellectual side of it. So I think that people usually
very sophisticated.
It's very sophisticated and it's very old too. So I think that a lot of people use skepticism and are also cynical to kind of shut down conversation. Why? I don't know why. I don't know why.
It's to armor themselves from life. It's to cut themselves off from other people in existence. But yeah, it's like let's put the average modern skeptic, Stephen Colbert watcher, next to St. Thomas Aquinas, and let's see which one reasons better.
Yeah, especially like something that people really don't know. Like I went to Catholic school forever, and like literally I had a Catholic education, and we were taught ethics. I learned that apparently that's not a thing that people learn in school. I was taught ethics every single grade. Up until graduation, we had an ethics class. We also had social justice class, which is funny. And also, logic. It's kind of like the idea that faith should serve reason, type of thing. So I think it's a lot more sophisticated than what people realize. Same as with magic.
Same as with magic, right? I mean, this is something you probably experienced in your life. You actually read the texts. And not only do you see a tremendously more sophisticated stream of knowledge and information than whatever the hell it is people are consuming now, but you also figure out real quick that it's been inspiring some of the greatest thinkers of Western civilization. Even Descartes himself petitioned the Rosicrucian Brotherhood. So And we can name so many other people. So, it's like Crowley is a good example. People dismiss him or they idolize him, which is also a bad approach. But you go read the material and you're like, okay, this guy's smart as fuck. He's talking about something. He's clearly onto something. And so skepticism should mean do the leg. I think that what skepticism should actually mean is do the legwork yourself. Don't take other opinions. Don't take other people's opinions firsthand, because whether they are for something or whether they reject it, that's just their emotional reactivity. It's like what you should go check it out yourself. Now we have the internet, which is great. Now you can go to Wikipedia, you can go to ChatGPT. So this is really easy now. So yeah.
I got so distracted by the comments. I was listening, and then I was listening to the comments as well. One of the things that I want to mention too, is, okay, I remember. I was responding to you mentally, talking about Crowley and how, like, some people just want to become him, or, like, they just outsource their thinking to him. Here's the thing about philosophy and philosophers, which is really interesting, that I've noticed online. There's a lot of you bitches be calling yourself philosophers, and you are absolutely not. There is a criteria to be a philosopher, and that means you have to actually do philosophy, which means you have to, like, actively create a philosophy. So if you want to consider yourself a philosopher in any way, shape, or form, like Crowley, you would have to do philosophy, which is hard. He even recommends, like, in his reading list to, like, study, Kant and logic and blah blah blah. There's a huge reading list. My last notes have to do with postmodernism and my very limited understanding of what that means, but he knows a lot about it.
I was an English student.
My main critique about postmodernism is as follows. I think when it comes to analyzing literature, yeah, sure, whatever, that's great. When it comes to analyzing science through that lens, you've done lost your damn mind. Seriously, there's, like, I've heard this before online where it's like, well, that's just how you interpret the science. No, I don't know how else to tell you this, but there's no other way to interpret that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Tell me how else can I possibly interpret that? Like, I don't think that I need to make that into anything deeper than what it is. And I think that the part of the issue that we're experiencing in today's world is that people are using postmodern analysis on scientific literature, which is inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, that's confusing the planes, as Crowley put it. I want to put up a positive note for postmodernism, though, because it often gets misrepresented by the Jordan Petersons of the world.
Wait, no, I like occult-ologies. You can analyze any piece of literature any way you want, but you have to do it in Kermit the Frog
Kermit
voice.
the Frog voice, yeah. So postmodernism, like, why did postmodernism happen? And what was it? All right, postmodernism happened after modernism, duh, okay. The idea of modernism was totalizing narrative, that there could be a master narrative, one narrative for everyone. What did that give us? It gave us Auschwitz, it gave us Mao, it gave us Stalin, right? So the European thought began to just crumble after World War II because the optimism in progress and in science died in the trenches, at the Somme, at Verdun, all that. It was World War I was so awful that the reaction from, for instance, people like T.S. Eliot or Ezra Pound was just this utter horror at what had occurred, and this total shaking of confidence in this idea that scientific progress could actually would actually have a good had a positive teleology to it. So particularly after the Holocaust, you get literary scholars like Bruno Bettelheim saying, in the wake of Auschwitz, what possible use is literature? What possible use is literary criticism? And more than that, looking at, for instance, let's just take fascism, these huge, grandiloquent master narratives of, this Sturm und Drang thing, and this one story for everyone. Well, you don't need me to tell you where that goes. So, postmodernism, quite simply, as it developed, was saying we can look at both history and literature from a lot of different viewpoints. It was a disenfranchising or a rejection of the master narrative, the idea that there could be one narrative, and that's a very good thing. Things we get out of that, for instance, people started to look at women in history that had never been done before. Prior to this, history was just about battles and kings, right? So people started to go back and look, feminist historians started to go back and look at what were the experiences of women, or people that were not traditionally written about all throughout history, and we inherit so much great stuff from that. I mean, that opened up discourse in a way that we can't downplay how important that was. Of course, as it developed and it took over at the academy, and it became the dominant episteme, right, which we started this with. Postmodernism became the dominant episteme. It's like in magical thinking, at a certain point, you're just handing everyone the air dagger. The air dagger is the tool of analysis and deconstruction, right? So if you have generation after generation after generation of people deconstructing and problematizing narratives, ultimately you just get Choronzon, you just get madness, right? And then and then the shit gets out of its containment unit, because I saw the Ghostbusters reference, and starts going into empirical or scientific fields, and that is a confusion of the planes, and that's deadly. That's deadly, right? So if anyone, he's not so much read anymore, but if anyone's familiar with Ken Wilber or spiral dynamics, which is an earlier theory by Don Beck that Ken Wilber adopted, he refers to this as the green meme. This idea that postmodernism, basically what is happening right now, and one of the things that is one of the reasons why the world seems like it's falling apart. It's not really, but one of the reasons why the world seems like it's falling apart is that postmodernism is meeting its own edge, its own opposite, its own moment of dissolution. It's destroyed itself, and that what we've ended up with is basically a society with no functioning immune system. And unbeknownst to the postmoderns, who believe that since this is how things have worked for them for multiple generations, that everyone must think this way. Well, it turns out that people who are still bound to master narratives, Islam, are a hell of a lot more effective than people who problematize and second guess everything. And so, it basically, Ken Wilber talks about this, and he basically says we're moving past green meme into a stage where hierarchy of thought can be reintroduced and truth can be reintroduced, but in a more but folding in the insights of postmodernism, that you can have different angles on things, but we still have to have at least practical truths. So that's worth taking a look at.
I definitely think too that deconstruction ultimately deconstructs itself, and ultimately, whether or not you agree with this, your worldview structures your experience of the world. And to have a worldview that just is like constantly tearing everything apart, I can't imagine that being very creative. So for practical reasons, again, some people opt for a more pragmatic worldview, and whether or not that's what I'm saying, there's modes of knowing, there's theories of truth, and one of the theories of truth is pragmatism, which is like, okay, yeah, you can just deconstruct everything. How's that going for you?
Yeah.
Are you winning, son?
I have a really good example to demonstrate this. So people who are my age will remember back, or younger. You remember, like in the 90s, we got Twin Peaks, and then like things like Twin Peaks, the movie American Beauty, all these things that were like or even Blue Velvet, where those were deconstructionist postmodern takes on things. And the message, like for instance, like the first scene of Blue Velvet, Kyle MacLachlan finds a severed ear in the grass. It starts with picket fences and roses, the perfect American suburbs. Kyle MacLachlan finds a severed ear in the grass and discovers that, perhaps the perfect American dream suburbs have a very, very dark underbelly. And then the rest of the movie is a deconstruction of the idea of basically America, this perfect America as put forward in the 50s and 60s. Okay, that was 1986. let's look around. What fucking suburbs are you talking about? Like, these people, like, you look at American Beauty, they're like, that movie's all about, oh, like, life in the suburbs is so hollow and meaningless. It's like millennials and Gen Z people look at that and they're like, you fuckers at houses? Like, what are you complaining about? You know, so, like, there's a good example of that.
It's a matter of perspective, man. Like, some people don't even have houses. So, so it's like a matter of perspective, man. Okay, so that's basically the end of my notes that I made. I just wanted to end on a couple of examples of, like, how we have come to certain perspectives on certain topics. So, for example, I had mentioned from being anti-Israel to pro-Israel. I was very much against an ethno-state. I was obnoxious about it, too. Do I have something in my hair? I feel like I have...
No, well,
I had something in my hair.
Israel is not an ethno-state.
Well, then,
it's just people call it that.
I hope that wasn't there the whole video, guys.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Anyways, I think if you just follow any of what Jason has posted within the past, like, 2 years, you can understand how I came to that conclusion. We do look at primary sources. And this kind of leads to the next thing, which is why we feel so strongly about Islam being an issue. It's very important that you listen to the apologists. All right, primary sources. I recommend everybody look up DebateCon Andrew Wilson versus Daniel Pikachu. Listen to primary sources, guys. Listen to the apologists and the influencers themselves. And please, if you see that debate, if you watch it, go on Discord and tell me what you thought about it.
It's insane. It's insane.
Nobody tells that man to say anything that he's saying, and he is just saying it with his full chest.
Do you want to do a spoiler about what the main point of contention is in that debate?
No, I kind of want it to be funny.
Right.
Like, I want it to be a surprise.
Tell people. I guess we should post the link then. We'll post the link in the Discord.
We'll post the link in the Discord. You can feel however you want to feel about Andrew Wilson. I get that he is problematic to some people, but you know what? I literally hated that guy when I first got into contact with his debate style. But no lie, like he knows how to debate very well.
Do you know the name of the channel that it was on?
DebateCon.
So look up DebateCon, and it's Andrew Wilson debating
Daniel Pikachu.
Yeah, it's Andrew Wilson versus Daniel Pikachu, whatever. So it just came out recently.
That you're like, I hope that y'all laugh as hard as I did. I was hollering the entire debate.
Okay, we won't spoil it, but it's just like
it was.
Please watch that.
And also, Apostate Prophet debated somebody. So, primary sources when it comes to Islam. How did we get to the conclusion about Islam that we came to? Well, we listened to the apologists. We listened to the apostates. We listen to our friends who come from those regions.
Read the history.
We read the jurisprudence. We go on to Al-Hazar's website. We go straight to the sources. We listen to counter-terrorists who make it their entire job to understand what this is. Mm-hmm. And
primary sources,
guys, and that is
the Quran is
and then basic logic and deduction can get you pretty far. And
well, I mean, we live in the era of Twitter where you can go online and see video after video of people who've been
prophet.
Well, you can see video after video
apostate.
Of people who have had acid thrown in their faces. People in Dubai throwing their Indian Nepali slaves out of windows. Beheadings, it's like in our world, it's like postmodernism is really breaking down with the internet because people can see the Ukraine war firsthand. People can see all of this stuff, and I think that actually Islam is a really, really good example of what I was talking about postmodernism, right? Where you've got this confrontation of this contact, shall we say, of two epistemes. Okay, we won't say civilization, the clash of civilizations theories, or things like that. We won't even talk about religion. You've got this contact of two epistemes. One is postmodernism, which is everything can be interpreted and seen from all these different directions, and we have to honor a plurality of voices because they can all be equally valid. Okay. Now you're contacting something that was set in stone in fucking 700 AD. A book that says not only can it never be changed. Not only can it never be changed, but it is the final word of God, and there will be no further word from God. And this is, classically, this is somewhere where like literature students go insane at religious studies classes because they think they can interpret the thing however they want, and they're like, no, and it's like, no, this is not literature. This is not Moby Dick. This is religious scripture that is computer code. It's basically code that people run their lives on. And so what we have here is this contact of epistemes where you have a group with a master narrative who's saying, no, we actually believe this. This is what, and they tell you, and they say again and again what they want to do and who they are. And they do, and it's very clear. And then you have this contacts the I don't even want to say postmodernism. It's just like postmodernism at its moment of collapse, where it's like, oh, well, you don't really mean that. Actually, it can be interpreted this way. It's like when you say you want to kill Jews everywhere, I mean, like, maybe that's just about an internal struggle, man,
yeah,
or like
the
whatever.
Jews
like
hiding behind the rocks. It means something different.
It means something different,
Why
right?
would they hide behind rocks?
And then it becomes just conflict avoidance, and that's suicidal. It's fatal.
Listen to people like Yasmin Mohammed, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Holy Humanist. These are all like people that have direct experience, and not only that, they have a lot of data and information, and they have podcasts where they talk to people who are from these regions. So where do I get my information? I don't get it from Fox. You might get your information from the news, but
Don't do that.
That's a bit outdated. Kind of embarrassing if you do that, honestly. It's like one of the most annoying things is people are like, stop watching Fox. I don't watch Fox.
Yeah.
I listen to the people directly, and I have ears.
Reality is
I have
offensive
ears.
sometimes.
I have eyes.
Reality is offensive.
And yeah, sometimes it's not like I think one of the biggest disappointment for some people is that this is not a drum circle. Like, life is not one giant drum circle. It's not. It's just not, okay? And somebody said, can we all just agree that theocracy sucks? I would love that, but actually there's like a lot of people
Apparently
who don't
not.
agree with that.
I mean,
there's a lot of people who don't agree with that.
It's the same people who are constantly talking about Christian nationalism and who have spent their whole lives bashing, Christianity. But when it's Islam, they don't do it. Why? Because they're scared. They're scared.
God forbid
they're afraid of the conflict.
I'm the good guy. I can't be seen as mean.
Yeah, because Islam is actually, unlike Ned Flanders, Islam is actually kind of frightening.
And also, like, they have a whole different system of jurisprudence. That's the thing that makes them distinctly different from Judaism and from Christianity. Reliance of the traveler, a primary source, guys. That I think it's their muftis use this for legislation. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's their muftis.
And imams.
So, just saying, like, that is, like, when we come to certain conclusions, a lot of people may not like those conclusions, but the problem is, and I've seen this in the comments, by the way, in one of the past videos, somebody was saying that they didn't like Jason's tone about true will and leaving people behind. That might, like, sink you. Okay, here's the thing.
Okay.
You're assuming intent. Who are you to assume the intent on anyone? That's weird. Anyways, and a couple of other topics that, like, I feel very strongly about. I was pro-choice for like 15 years. I was pro-choice all the way. I encourage anyone who supports that to look just a little bit harder. And actually watch footage of the procedures being done. And ask yourself, like, do we actually need that? Or can there be other options available? Which, by the way, surprise, surprise, there's lots of options available.
Yeah.
And then
say more about that, though, to qualify it. I mean, it's like if you feel strongly about that, well, great. You should be able to watch what abortions. You should actually.
That's what I did. That's what I did. So actually, the way that it started was when we met. I was pro-choice, all the way pro-choice. And I don't even think I had in my mind, like, I think in my mind I was like maybe first trimester, and then after that, once it's visibly human, I can't support it anymore. Because what about if the woman was assaulted? What if it's a child? What if, okay? Well, guys, when you start to look into the numbers and you start to look into the data and you start to look into what it is, a lot of those arguments start to fall apart. But not only that, but he would ask me, like, well, then, like, what do you qualify as, like, conscious? What do you qualify as sentient? What do you qualify as human? And these questions really deeply bothered me. They bothered me so much because basically I was having a cognitive dissonance within myself. I was like, I'm having to do a ton of mental gymnastics to get around justifying this. And so one day, without him prompting me, because he didn't push it, like he didn't push it. He didn't push it at all. But I was deeply bothered by my own cognitive dissonance on this. It bothered me a lot, actually. So I was like, I'm just going to watch a shit ton of footage of abortions being performed. That changed my mind immediately. And then I started looking into statistics. What is it? 95% are elective, or because the mom just needs to have a career. Pitting mothers against their kids because money, I think, is quite foul. I think that the overall harm that it does to the female body throughout time, there's lots of evidence that 10 to 15 years, if you've had this procedure done, you will become depressed. You will end up on drugs or alcohol. That is just, like, statistically true. And then the other 5% are those outlier cases, to which we are not going to touch on because that's not what this stream is about. But I just don't want to force anything down anyone's throat. But I am saying, if you're about that life and you think that that's something that's necessary, please look up what it is that you're supporting and actually watch it with your full chest out, like with your glasses on. And seriously, also, primary resources. Listen to abortionist and ex-abortionist, and listen to pro-life OBGYNs, and you might be very surprised with some of the information that you get. Again, it's uncomfortable. It's killing babies is really uncomfortable,
you have a lot of
guys.
people agreeing in the comments. People are talking about male circumcision also. Yeah, it's barbaric.
I don't believe in that.
Circumcising a man and removing the foreskin is literally equivalent to removing a woman's clitoris. That's where all the nerve endings are. Leave the babies alone.
I think
leave them alone.
I think that you treat your most...
Don't be cutting up children.
I think how you treat your most vulnerable, because this is another thing too. I have zero to gain by taking this position. If anything, like me, I saw like a really stupid comment saying, oh, leave it to people without uteruses to be pro-life. I have a uterus, and I am 100% pro-life. And the reason why I am is because I believe that is like, I have nothing to gain from it. Nothing. The little babies aren't paying me to say this. They're not. If anything, it would be more self-interested if I said, well, I want to have that option out on the table just in case listen, I'm 32. And this is just for 95% of the cases. This is a very unpopular opinion, but like, you are responsible for your body. Your uterus was not made for you. It was made for your baby. So that is, and also my other argument is that if it's your body, your choice, well, if you have a baby boy, do you now have a penis? If you have another baby in you, do you have two heads now? It falls apart. It literally falls apart.
All right, okay. We got a fucking dumbass in the goodbye scumbag.
Well, at least
that's actually his username. Goodbye. Well,
anyways, moving on, and also like things like immigration. Again, you can go to primary sources like immigration resources and figure out why people letting anyone into your country just utterly unchecked doesn't make any fucking sense. So
it is crazy to me how belief has become totally tribalized. You know, it's like if you look at something and adopt a belief based on data, people will just pigeonhole you. It's like whatever side believes that, left or right. That's retarded. Like, it's just retarded.
Where-
Seeing the world through the lens of political ideology is like being a cat with its whiskers cut off. It is literally retarded. And it means
horrible
that you've
image.
outsourced all of your thinking. So, and it means you're the slave of somebody else. Somebody, some NGO or somebody in a think tank who's feeding your framing to you. So people should not be afraid to think for themselves. It's like the idea that like if you take a position, you're automatically this. That's got to go. It's
Well, it's
just
also-
ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
It's also like, again, people like to assume people's intentions, which is like wild to me. I don't know how you can get yourself on that level. You don't know a person, therefore you don't actually. Okay, do you want to know what projection is? Straight up, projection is when you think you know something, but you have zero evidence for that, so it's directly coming from your own mind. When you think that someone is taking a position, like for example, my pro-life position, because I hate women and I want to punish women, not at all. Not at all. In fact, I get called names for this, right? I get accused of A, B, C, D, whatever. A lot of times, like, just assume that you don't know why a person feels the way that they feel, and also assume maybe that they are just as smart as you, just as educated as you, they just have a different conclusion than you do, and that's okay. And yeah, I think that's where I end with that. Again, surfing all of this information, it is hard. It can really break a lot of distortions as well, which is a good thing if you appreciate that. But if you want to hold on to your narratives because it's scary, I understand. Of course it's scary. Epistemology is a very dangerous field of philosophy to go into, which is why one of my flexes, I don't really debate people, but I would like to. One of my flexes is kind of like what Andrew Wilson does, which I do think is very important. It's like, what's your worldview, bro? What are you modeling your world off of? Because you might have some foundational claims that the second I pull that apart, your entire thing collapses.
Yeah.
So now it's all like, just like, why should I listen to you? If you can't even tell me how you gather information, why should I listen to you? I know how I gather information, but a lot of people, they just project things. They project nasty things onto people. Like, you lack compassion. Bitch, you don't know me.
Yeah, you got to be careful with projection, and you got to be careful about gaslighting too, because people will just attack you for your opinions and tell you that you're insane or you're not seeing what you're seeing. There's a great Groucho. Somebody quoted Groucho Marx, which is excellent. I wouldn't want to be a member of any club that would have me as a member. There's another great Groucho Marx quote: "Believe me, not your lying eyes. Believe me, not your lying eyes." How much of the last 5 years does that sum up for you?
Well,
Somebody's talking about the abortion pill too.
I think that the abortion pill is going to put things into perspective very fucking soon. The way that pill works is by starving the little bitty human being. It's like, it's a complete prejudice towards a tiny little human. It's kind of like the cognitive dissonance is like, you were once a tiny little being. That's where it starts. And any other point outside of conception is literally arbitrary. It actually is. It is arbitrary. I think that the smaller you are, the more rights you actually have because you're more vulnerable to the world. And if that makes me a bigot, then I'm a bigot. So moving on to questions.
I would say you should talk about the adoption statistics and then go through questions.
Okay. Last thing. Every year there's about a million abortions performed, and people are like, but adoption, the adoption list. There's 2 million people currently waiting to adopt babies. On top of that, people seem to have gotten the foster care system confused with the adoption system. So foster care has everything to do with separating a child from a harmful family and eventually with the intention to reunite them. That's what the foster care system is. Adoption is a completely different entity entirely. So people don't know what they're talking about. They also say things like, well, if you're pro-life, are you going to care for the baby? There's a shit ton of pregnancy centers, like all around. In Texas, there's a lot. I looked it up the other day because we're trying. Anyways, I looked it up the other day, and there are so many pregnancy centers that will give you maternity clothes. It'll give you formula. It'll give you ultrasounds, baby food, diapers. So like this idea that you don't have a community, the people that make a lot of money off of you like I believe in choice. I believe in choice, right? But not the choice to end the life of an innocent third party that didn't ask to be a part of this. And I believe that there's a lot of options for people that find themselves in that situation.
All right.
The end.
You want to go through comments?
Okay. Yes. You can. Okay.
I'm curious which ones. I'll be right back. You can pull out.
Does the sperm cell have a spirit yet?
There
I'm
were
genuinely
multiple questions about
asking.
when does life begin.
Oh, this is interesting. So, I mean, it is. I don't know if I would say it's living because it lives only like. I would say, does it have a spirit? The sperm spirit, maybe. But is it the same as a human spirit? No, I don't think so. Let me see. I'm gonna scroll up and see where we're at. Maybe I should just, let's see. I believe that 100% Willie said teaching themselves. Da, 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 da. Let's see, guys. I'm just reading. Some spiritualists who are pro-choice also like to debate the time in which the soul actually comes into the body. There is a viral video that went out of the moment of fertilization. I don't know how they caught this, but science, we have it now. And the moment that an egg is fertilized with a sperm, a flash of, it's a chemical reaction. But what it looks like is a flash of light. It's super cool. If my personal opinion is that if the moment that a new DNA set is created, that is when a whole new entity enters into the realm of existence. Let's see. Da 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 da. The abortion pill is an atrocity. I guess I didn't really touch on that, but it's actually sad. It's so sad. It makes me cry. It does make me cry because you have these women who oftentimes what happens when a woman is forced to make that decision, she is not supported by the father and her family, and she feels as if she has no other options. She feels as if she doesn't have a community that can help her, and so she ends up choosing that. And as far as the abortion pill goes, well, there have been utter horror stories of women seeing their baby, thinking that it was just going to be a clump of cells, but it was actually a little human, a little being. And now they have to live with that horrible image in their mind for the rest of their life. And I actually have a lot of compassion for women that are forced to think that they don't have any option. I wish that they could all know that you don't have, you can give your baby up for adoption. You really can.
It's often coerced and pushed by the man in the situation also.
Yeah, that is, let me see. Da 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 da. Yeah, I think circumcision is just obviously wrong and evil.
You can read the comments because people won't see them on the replay.
Ren Redemption. Hi, Ren.
Hello.
I love Ren. The psychological impact the entire process before and after on women is really underplayed, especially given how most pro-choice folks celebrate what's a deep somatic trauma. Yeah, physically you are assaulting your body. There's this one abortionist named Kermit or Hermit something.
Kermit Gosnell.
Please look that up. Primary source, Kermit Gosnell or Gosnell or something like that.
Gosnell, yeah.
He was an abortionist that was like, I'm going to help all these women change their lives or whatever. He performed a shit ton of abortions on Mother's Day, which is so twisted. And one of his abortion tools that he had was this blender that he would stick into a woman and just... And it would completely ruin her uterus, and a lot of women
This was also almost all basically poor, vulnerable, What was it? Where it was poor, underprivileged black women, basically. that
Oh
he was
man,
doing
don't even
this
get
to.
me started on the beginnings of Planned Parenthood and its eugenic
just horrible. It's
undertones.
horrible. Yeah.
You can look it up for yourself, guys. If you believe in eugenics, then you might like Planned Parenthood because God, they definitely did the thing that they were trying to do.
Talk about it's funny, right? You want to see racism? Go look at Planned Parenthood.
But the psychological impact is insane. I think it is completely underplayed because you have to think like, what if that, and this does happen often. A lot of times, women who get these abortions done, they'll regret it just like 10 years after, and now they have to reconcile in their mind that they assaulted or killed, murdered their baby. That's how they're going to frame it. And that is not good. That is not good because I do have compassion for those women. I know that in their minds, they're not thinking in that term. I think that you have to be completely dissociated to make that decision.
That's what ketamine's for.
Yeah. What? Oh my gosh. I told my OBGYN that I didn't want my son to be circumcised, and she came back and told me it had already been done. Oh, I would be pissed. Yeah, I would sue. I would sue. What the fuck?
Fists would be a flying.
Let me see. If you find any questions that are interesting.
There was the whole conversation about male circumcision. Yeah, it's like you got to wonder why theocrats love that. You know, it's like I think that for men, circumcision is a way to turn men into killers. I do, because it's a source of endless frustration, and I don't want to make people feel bad, but you know.
Ren is always coming in with banger comments, but I want to sing Kumbaya. Same. Technically, I do too. I would love if everything
We're
was
all hippies here.
I actually am. Like, literally, I actually am. But it's, like, such a big disappointment when you realize that you can't, like, kumbaya with everybody because they want to kill you.
Yeah.
Everything in the Quran is very literal as well. There's no book of Revelations or anything interpretive like that.
Oh, yeah, it's completely on the nose.
For me, it's like
there's no misinterpreting that book.
I just like to bypass the Quran and the Hadiths entirely and just focus on the reliance of the traveler, which is what they legislate with. Because there's no misinterpretation for the legislation. I recommend that. Here's a fun game that you can play. Go on Grok or Chat or whichever large language model you like. You can use all of them if you want. And say, okay, what happens to a man who... Can you kill a kuffar? Or what is the punishment for killing a kuffar based off of reliance of the traveler? And just, ask it questions like that.
Kuffar means not non-Muslim.
Ask it questions like that because it'll be very fucking clear what the actual punishment would be, which is nothing.
No, that's
nothing.
No, trust me, believe me, not your lying eyes. That's not what they mean.
Let me see. Apostate Prophet opened me up to a lot of this stuff. Yeah, Apostate Prophet is a very good source. And also Prostate Puppet, how dare you? It's really funny. Okay, people don't understand Andrew Wilson. He's just being rude back to them. Yeah, it took me a while to realize that he's just matching energies and he's just holding up a mirror to some of these people, and it seems like they've never thought their positions out ever, and all they do is repeat words that sound good to them. Don't be that. Don't do that. Don't be that person.
Yeah, occultology has a good occultology has a good point. There's just to the comment about Israel being an ethno-state. There's so many different ethnicities of Jews in Israel. It's hard to call it an ethnic state. Plus, there's a ton of Arabs. There's also a ton of Africans. Have you ever heard of Igbo Jews? There's Jews from Africa in Israel. The
more I started to educate
myself,
Middle
Eastern
the more
country.
my mind changed. The more I began to educate myself.
It's a Middle Eastern country.
Like, when they say, do the research. Bitch, I did the research. I came to a different conclusion than you.
Yeah. I love that one. Do the research. It's like, I did. You're wrong.
It is possible that people that are equally as smart as you will come to a different conclusion. Let's see.
This is my new wife.
Oh, yeah. His only wife. He hasn't been married before.
I've never been married yet. Yes.
I wonder if there's any new questions at the bottom. Let's jump to the bottom.
Oh, Twitch is digging Adept Initiative. Excellent.
Sweet.
Black Friday sale's on now for YouTube members.
Much love to you both. I thought too positively of pro-choice. Now my wife and I are having our first child. Congratulations. A baby girl. Oh my gosh. That's going to be fun. I can't even imagine. Why do doctors in the United States think male? I don't know.
It's just it's like people never question what they're taught. They don't question what they're taught. It's just that's how we've always done it, so that's how we're gonna do it.
My daughter saved me from addiction.
Yeah, KS Moon has a good point. It's also frustrating for women, male circumcision, because the function change has to do with wet. Yeah, the foreskin is also for, not to get into sex ed, but the foreskin is there for lubrication. And also men who don't have it, I'm sorry if this upsets people, but you should be aware of this, because they have reduced sensation, tend to just go battering ram at the cervix, which is not fun for women.
I wanted to read this one comment. My daughter saved me from addiction. I was only 21 and in rehab when I found out I was pregnant with her. Children are miracles, and their lives can bring so much to your own life. That's the thing. Like, that's the part that's, like, so heartbreaking for me is, like, yeah, I think, like, if you're going to be a completely selfish person, give your child up for adoption. But I think there's a lot of people who become their very best self when they become a mom or a dad, because they realize that life isn't just about them and that they are able to be so much more than just a me. You can learn a lot through having children and learning how to love something outside of you. And I think that we're stunting people by making them believe that they can treat their bodies and, like, use their bodies and, like, use abortion as birth control and bypass development within like the human being. Like, human beings are meant to procreate and have babies, and there's a developmental, like, even like a psychological developmental aspect to that.
KS Moon is a really good comment.
This one?
Yeah.
Since someone mentioned breastfeeding, there was also propaganda against the black wet nurses in order to demonize them and make people want to buy their product. Wow, same thing with black midwives. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
Joker's got a good question. How do you feel about Genesis Peorage and her body transition surgeries and her take on the bodies in sacred? Well, I happen to have a little bit of an inside view on that since I was living with Genesis while she was transitioning and while that was happening. My view on it is it was a very daring art project and statement for a performance artist in their 50s who was already had an incredibly confrontational career. It's not a good idea when it's kids, underage kids. Sorry, it's just not. There's, what is good for records of civilization is not good for the masses.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I take a totally different position, which is everything is sacred, but the body specifically. Your body is like your body is your vessel. It's like literally the thing that allows you to have existence in general, to feel love, to see the stars. I was saying this earlier today, like to eat ice cream, to laugh. The body is not the enemy, although I think a lot of people have been conditioned into seeing life as a bit of a drag.
Jen had an adversarial relationship to her body because of early and late childhood trauma, and because of her adrenal condition and all these other reasons. So yeah, Jen and Jackie said the body is a cheap suitcase. Let's say that, yes, and it's important while you're here. But they were always, to be fair, telling me I needed to be more in my body. So Jen also was very, like if you've seen remember the music video Joy, I think it's like, why don't you just enjoy your body? So Jen had lots and lots of complex views on that.
I couldn't imagine not having my son. It's helped me with my spiritual journey so much. He's my be here now guru. Yeah, exactly. Kids are so cool. Like they are so new to the world. They see it with fresh eyes, and they're able to get you into that, like, well, maybe I should ask questions, like, type of being, like, and they're so present. They are so present. Unless, like, you give them a fucking iPad, don't do it.
Yeah. Don't let them get on Roblox, for God's sake.
Kids are more consciousness expanding than anything else you can do in this life. Yeah, and that's why it's like, why would you want to end that? Why would you want to intentionally kill that? I don't understand that. I kind of get like the dissociated state, like allowing for that to happen, and like people in their situations. But I guess like my whole point is that there are so many options before you do that, and there are ramifications. A lot of these women end up becoming super suicidal, which is not cool,
and getting cancer from the chemicals they use.
Yeah, it's antithetical to life. Okay, globalization seems to be impossible simply because Taiwan and Ukraine existing as independent states.
I don't understand that, since they're part of the United States sphere of influence, and Taiwan specifically is so I think there's we need to define globalization. Globalization specifically means outsourcing manufacturing. It basically means dropping the barriers to trade between countries entirely, including migration flows back and forward, and bringing in cheap workers and outsourcing factories to other countries for cheaper labor. Taiwan is where all of our superconductors are made, or semiconductors. So Taiwan is actually a very good example of globalization functioning fairly well, which is why China wants it back. So it doesn't mean one world government. It means open trade.
Although there are entities and NGOs that would love a one
Of
world
course.
government.
Yeah, well, Hasanabi's all for it now, apparently.
Hasanabi thinks that
Whatever.
communism will get us into the Star Trek universe.
Good luck with that.
Okay, guys, I am like getting super tired. Is there a way
Alright.
that we can check the
I think we pretty much
chats?
saw the chats.
Okay, guys. So, that is how you discern information. Our source, primary sources. If you read an article, you might want to go to where they got their sources from. Another thing that I recommend too is like who's writing the article, who are they getting paid by? Go on their Twitter, see what they're about. If you want to know if they're pushing a narrative or not.
Well, you got to be careful with that too, because people will use that to say they'll discredit something just by looking at the source, right? So, well, that's a right-wing thing, or that's a left-wing thing.
No, I'm
right?
saying like
So-
no, you should look at the primary source, but what I'm saying is look at the person who wrote it as well.
Yeah.
And just like you don't have to like come to a conclusion based off of that alone, but just like add it into your information set.
Basically, do your own info gathering, and if you really want to, I recommend RSS feeders, a technology that social media doesn't, an ancient technology from the 90s of the internet, which blogs and social media do not want, or news sources and social media do not want you to know about. It basically strips out all the news from all the sources you read and just puts it into one source without the ads as text. Highly recommended for getting lots of information quickly.
And we're not sponsored by this company, but I'm sure if you've watched YouTube for any amount of time, you've seen an ad for them. Ground News.
Well, you actually got that, right? Was that good?
Yeah, Ground News. I got it. I don't have it anymore because I didn't want to pay for it. But like, Ground News is good in case you don't want to have to do all of this stuff. What they do is they have news from all sources, from the right, from the left, and from the center, and they tell you like basically what one side is saying, what the other side isn't saying, and just I think that like if it becomes too overwhelming, using that as a resource is also helpful. There are other websites that are similar to Ground News as well, so whichever one resonates with you. But yeah, that's basically it. Sometimes when we are collecting information and data and we're devoted to figuring out what is the truth, don't despair. You can ascertain something close to the truth. And you have a bunch of modes of doing that. Look up epistemology lectures on YouTube if you find that super interesting. Definitely look up the Andrew Wilson versus Daniel Pikachu. Y'all will find that hilarious.
All right.
Oh,
I saw that. The Mastering Meditation Discord link is not going, but the main Discord is, and has a meditation forum on it. So that's what you should join. And I think I can just paste that in again. Yep, here's the Discord link for everyone. Join there. And of course, For all YouTube subscribers, you can become one by clicking the join button right below this video. You have early access to the Black Friday deals, which I haven't checked in a few hours, but last I checked, the best package is already half gone, and it's still Monday. So the public gets access to the Black Friday deal on Black Friday, obviously, but if you're a joined subscriber, you can get it now, and so it very well may sell out before Black Friday. So go check that out, and if you want to know more about that, there's a link to the video that explains it in the description for this one.
All right, guys. Well, it's been real. Look at that debate. I'm putting it in the Discord, guys. Y'all are gonna. It's hilarious.
For itself.
Nobody told this man to say the things that he said, but he said it. And now you have to go see what that means.
All right. Be well, everyone.